I never imagined the matchmaker's words would lead to a heart-wrenching decision. I will never forget the day everything fell apart. It was a Saturday, just like any other, but the air crackled with anticipation. The scent of blooming jasmine filled the park, wrapping around me like a hopeful embrace. Birds chirped fervently, oblivious to the storm brewing within me that I stood there, trembling, clutching the damp piece of paper that held my fate. My heart pounded against my chest. I had spent weeks contemplating the matchmaker's promise. "Love is destined, you just need to find it," she said with a wink that haunted my dreams. Who am I to deny destiny? But now, under the weight of those words, I felt small and shattered. My best friend, Lily, stood beside me, her brow furrowed. "You don't have to do this, you know," she whispered, worry etched across her face. I could feel her warmth, her unwavering support, but my mind spiraled back to my parents. They wanted me to settle down, to find the one. Their expectations bore down on me like heavy stones. I could practically hear their voices. "When will you find a good man?" The pressure was suffocating that I took a deep breath, the coolness of the air brushing against my cheeks. The matchmaker's voice echoed in my ears. "Trust the process," she said, her words deliberate and heavy. With each heartbeat, a new pang of doubt crept in. I imagined myself walking down the aisle, the eyes of family and friends upon me, their expectations pinned like butterflies in a case. Did I want that? Was this my truth? Just then, a gust of wind rustled the trees, and I glanced up, searching for answers in the sky. The clouds rolled in, dark and foreboding. My palms grew clammy. They were always there during the hard times: my family, my old friends, even the ones who had drifted away. The thought of letting them down turned my stomach. And then there was him. The stranger who had captured my heart one fateful evening. I couldn't shake the vision of his smile. His laughter felt like sunshine breaking through the gloom. What would he think if I made that choice? Would he still hold a place for me in his heart, or would that door close forever? The weight of that possibility clenched my gut. A sudden chill forced me to pull my jacket tighter around me. I was about to take the plunge into a decision that might shatter everything I held dear. Sweat trickled down my back as I felt every pair of eyes on me, anticipating my move: friends, family, the spectators of my life, all waiting for me to either claim love or to turn away from it forever. Waves of uncertainty crashed over me. My fingers trembled, and I could feel the paper crumpling in my grasp. The sky darkened, the first drops of rain beginning to fall. I glanced at Lily, her expression urging me to reconsider. I stood on the precipice, a crossroads of the heart. What was I willing to sacrifice? As the clouds burst open, pouring down around us, tears mixed with rain on my cheeks. The answer seemed miles away. And just as the thunder rolled, the matchmaker's words flooded back into my mind, ringing louder than before. But what if love wasn't meant for me? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. The rain fell hard, drenching me to the skin, but it was like a balm to my restless thoughts. I stood there in the storm, feeling as if the sky were weeping along with me. Each drop was a moment I wished I could take back, an opportunity that slipped through my fingers like water. I turned away from the gathering crowd, pushing past Lily's worry-filled gaze, desperate for space, for clarity, for the grounding I so desperately lacked that I stumbled down the park's winding path, seeking the silence of nature to heal my chaotic heart. The thunder rumbled overhead, fierce like my troubled mind, echoing my inner turmoil. I needed to breathe, to find alignment not just with my family's wishes but with my own desires. As I reached a secluded bench, I sank onto it, letting my head fall into my hands. I could feel the tears mixing with rain again, the familiar sting of vulnerability enveloping me, and then I heard light footsteps approaching, a comforting sound breaking through the thunder's wrath. "Hey, is everything okay?" A gentle voice interrupted my solitude. I looked up to see a soft-faced stranger, a girl about my age, with kind eyes and a rain-soaked sweater clinging to her. She smiled sympathetically, and for a fleeting moment, I felt the warmth of her compassion wrap around me. I don't know," I stammered, my voice barely audible above the storm. The reality of my choices loomed large, but she sat next to me anyway, patiently waiting for me to gather my thoughts. "I'm just lost, I guess." The girl nodded slowly, as if she understood the weight of that word. "It's okay to be lost. Sometimes, in the chaos, we can find ourselves." Her words struck a chord in me, igniting a tiny spark of hope I had thought extinguished. "I have to make a decision that feels impossible," I confessed, grateful for the anonymity of this new friend. "A matchmaker told me that I had found my fate. But I don't know if I believe it. I see love in a lot of places, yet I still feel so alone." "Love can be complicated," she agreed, her gaze drifting away as if she too had tasted its bittersweetness. "But don't forget that you have the power to choose your path. Sometimes the hardest choice is the one that speaks to your heart, even if it doesn't align with others' expectations." Her words offered a light against the shadows gnawing at the corners of my mind. "I wish it were that simple," I replied. "What if I disappoint everyone?" "Sometimes you have to disappoint a few people, even ourselves, to stay true to who we are," she said, her voice soft yet unwavering. "Imagine the regret if you don't follow your heart and choose love, even if it's uncertain." As she spoke, I felt the storm outside whirl in tandem with the tempest inside, but her calm presence soothed me. Torn between the weight of my past and the fear of my future, I took a deep breath, allowing her kindness to wash over my frayed edges. Just as I thought I might regain my footing, my phone buzzed violently in my pocket, fracturing the moment. I fumbled with it, finally glancing at the screen. My heart plummeted at the sight of an incoming call from my mother. I felt the weight of her expectations like a boulder on my chest. It was a call I couldn't ignore. She was probably inquiring about the big announcement, about the decision I was still wrestling with. I hesitated, torn between my instinct to let the call go to voicemail and the ever-looming commands of duty. An unexpected warmth blossomed in my chest as the girl beside me leaned closer, peering curiously at the screen. "You don't have to answer," she encouraged gently. "Listen to your intuition." But before I could make a choice, the phone slipped from my fingers and crashed against the pavement. The screen shattered with a sickening crack, as my heart mirrored its destruction. I gasped, feeling a mix of horror and relief. "I let it go," she interrupted softly, placing a reassuring hand on my shoulder. "Maybe it's a sign. Maybe the universe is telling you to break free." As I sat there, enveloped in the kindness of a stranger and the fury of rain, I felt the room for hope expand within me. Yet, just as my spirit began to lift, a low rumble echoed in the distance, one that sounded too much like familiar voices. I turned to face the entrance of the park, where a figure loomed against the storm, a storm not of nature but of realization. It was him, the one I had thought of constantly, the stranger with the radiant smile who had opened my heart and thrown my heartache into sharp relief. His eyes met mine, wide with unshed emotions, and fear coursed through me. How much had he seen? How much had he known? As he took a hesitant step closer, I realized that my world was about to shift one more time, and this time, the weight of that shift could break me. The rain continued to pour, a relentless torrent that seemed to mock the tempest brewing within me. I was caught between two worlds, the one I had forged out of duty and the one that whispered of possibility and longing. His silhouette became clearer as he approached, each raindrop hammering down around us like the echo of my racing heart. I wished fervently for a retreat, an escape from the storm both outside and within. "Why are you here?" I managed to croak, my voice tremulous with vulnerability. I could barely look at him, fearing that the torrent of emotions he sparked within me would drown any sense of reason I had left. His smile, once a beacon, now felt overwhelming, a bright contrast to the chaos surrounding us. His brow furrowed with concern, and I felt the warmth of his gaze on me, pouring forth comfort as if he were a shelter from the storm. "I came to find you. I saw you leave, and I couldn't just let you wander alone." There was a sincerity in his words that sent a cascade of warmth clawing through the icy grip of fear. "I'm fine," I lied, but he saw through the facade, his expression shifting to one of quiet understanding. The girl beside me shifted slightly, subtly offering space, but her presence lingered like the resumed beating of my heart, as if she understood the depth of this moment. "What is going on?" He pressed gently, his voice imbued with an urgency that spoke of worry and care. I swallowed hard, feeling the walls around my heart begin to crumble, layer by layer. The stranger next to me had momentarily eased the burden, but this was different. This was him, the boy who had walked into my life like a blazing sun, and now, in this moment, he was an unbearable truth. I don't know," I stammered, feeling tears throat-tight and hot. "There's so much I don't know. The matchmaker, my family, they push me toward a future I'm not sure I want. But you." My voice broke, trailing off into the sound of rain, the despair clinging to every word. "I'm not here to complicate things." His voice was low, intent. "I just want you to know that you can talk to me. You don't have to bear this burden alone." A shiver of connection soared between us, laced with unspoken possibilities that trembled just beyond reach. But my heart quaked with the weight of guilt, of obligation, of trying to confine a soul meant to explore freedom and love. If only it were that simple, I breathed out, a confession cloaked in desperation. The thoughts spiraled in my head, the fight between love and expectations rending me apart. What if it is? He stepped closer, breaking the physical space between us, grounding me in his resolve. Sometimes the hardest part is just being honest with ourselves about what we truly desire. What feels right? What feels right? I echoed. I wanted to tell him. I wanted to scream that every glance, every fleeting moment with him felt more real than anything my family had ever imagined for me. But in the gap of our exchange, another shadow broke through, a reminder of the life I had been raised to occupy. That girl, I hesitated, unsure how to articulate the fragile bond one had just begun to understand. The profound kindness of a stranger felt like another layer, one that had opened my heart to vulnerability even further, leaving it raw. And he nodded towards the girl who had offered me solace, as if just realizing she was still beside us. "She has been a great friend," he said simply, and I could see the way he truly meant it. I didn't have the heart to tell him about the surge of hope that she had planted in me, the first glimmer of what it felt like to be free from expectations. "I just don't know how to choose," I finally said, exhaling the fear that had been suffocating me. "I'm afraid of breaking hearts, of disappointing everyone." "You can't be responsible for the choices of others," he urged, his voice soothing in the midst of my erratic thoughts. "But you can choose to be brave. You have to listen to what your heart truly wants, not just what others expect of you." With every word he spoke, I felt the tension between us grow, a pulse of connection tying us together like threads woven through the deafening rain. But the weight of duty was unyielding. Suddenly, a flash of lightning illuminated the sky, fierce and blinding, as a familiar dark car slid into view, headlights cutting through the gloom like sirens of expectation. It was my family, the very voices I had run from, the very storm I had tried to escape. "Please," I said, panic clawing at my throat, glancing back at him as chaos loomed closer. "Stay with me. I can't face them alone." He hesitated. There was a conflict that flickered in his eyes, a sort of visceral understanding that spoke of his own demons perhaps. "You know I would," he started, but the moment hung heavy, painted with uncertainty. Before I could respond, the car door flung open, and my mother's figure emerged, drenched yet determined, her urgency palpable even through the sheets of rain. I turned back toward him, searching for something in his gaze, for reassurance, for a sign that this moment wouldn't slip away into the dark. "Promise me," I whispered, "just promise me you'll be there, no matter what." He nodded, determination tinged with sorrow in his gaze. I promise. But just as I felt a flicker of hope igniting within me once more, the sound of my mother's strident voice broke through the rain, and I knew that whatever illusions I clung to would soon collide with reality, the reality I had to confront, no matter the pain it entailed. The world shrank to a singular moment, my heart pounding a rapid beat that echoed in the midst of chaos. My mother's voice, imperious and unwavering, rose above the rain's cacophony, wrapping around me like a choking vine. "What are you doing out here? We were worried sick." She stormed toward me, her expression a mixture of anger and concern, and the ground beneath my feet felt unstable. I needed some air," I stammered, still standing close to him, a lifeline in the storm. But the moment felt suspended, as if time itself was mocking my struggle. I could feel his presence seeping strength into my frightened heart, igniting a flicker of rebellion within me, yet I was also painfully aware of my family's weighty expectations casting a shadow over my every thought. "Get in the car. We have to talk," my mother snapped, ignoring the rain that poured down her face, each droplet merging with the urgency in her tone. I hesitated, my mind racing with words of defiance that stayed stuck in my throat, while behind her, the car's engine idled ominously, a harbinger of the unavoidable situation that awaited me. "Please," I whispered to him, the desperation visible in my eyes. "I need you." He reached out subtly, just a brush of fingertips against my wrist, but it felt monumental, like a promise of hope anchored in a storm-ravaged sea. The heat of his touch sent a shiver through me, but the warmth was soon extinguished by the chill of reality. "Go," he urged, his eyes filled with something deeper than understanding. There was courage there, and it urged me to face my demons. "I'll be waiting. Just remember, whatever they say, you're stronger than you think." I nodded hesitantly, torn between the beckoning car and the desperate bond seeping between us. "I promise I'll find you," I said softly, voice barely audible, hoping it would carry the weight of truth. As I turned, the cold grip of duty draped over my shoulders, commanding me to move toward the car where my mother's resolve loomed large. I heard him whisper, "You can rewrite your story," echoing like a talisman, instilling fleeting courage as I trudged through the muck toward my fate. Once inside, the car was stifling, the silence reeked of my mother's disapproval and my father's silence brooded in the front seat. My heart twisted as I turned to face them, but then an unexpected flicker of rebellion ignited within me. What if I antagonized their demands, instead of caving to their expectations? My voice trembled slightly as I broke the silence, fingers clenched into tight fists in my lap. "I don't want to go through with the matchmaker's arrangements." The atmosphere tightened like a noose, the air charged with the electricity of conflict. My mother's brows knitted together as if she were unraveling a puzzle too vast for her understanding. "What do you mean?" Her tone held a degree of disbelief that pierced right through to my core. "I mean, I don't want that life." The admission spilled forth, ignited by a moment of courage, but it felt fragile, like a tiny flame in a tempest. A tremor ran through me, yet I held my breath, waiting for the storm that would follow. My father turned the steering wheel sharply, glancing back with a furrowed brow, his voice low and controlled but laced with simmering anger. "We've been patient, but this needs to stop. You're being foolish." "There's nothing foolish about wanting to choose my own future," I countered, a strange energy coursing through me as if I was discovering the power in my own voice. "You've made these choices for me, but they aren't mine. I need to find my own way." Their expressions shifted from surprise to something darker, disappointment layered with indignation. Deep shadows danced across their features, and I could feel their collective disappointment curling around us like a dark cloud. "Your future is not just about you," my mother said softly, sadness creeping in but layered thick with resolve. "It's also about your family, tradition, and honor. You have responsibilities. Responsibilities that suffocate me." I shouted, the volume of my voice echoing back like a clap of thunder. "I can't continue living a life that isn't mine. Not when there's more out there waiting for me." Silence filled the car. For a moment, reality felt suspended as the weight of my words settled in. The rain pounded against the windows, a chorus to my rebellion, muffling the unyielding pressure closing in. And then, just as their eyes widened in stunned silence, an alarming ping broke through, jolting us back to the moment. My phone, nestled in the console, vibrated violently, a harsh reminder of a world that refused to yield. I grabbed it, heart racing, for the haunting images of the past lingered like shadows that followed me. The name on the screen snatched the breath from my lungs, the matchmaker. Who is it? My mother snapped, eyes narrowing, sensing my hesitation. It's nothing, I lied, throat dry. But the figure on the other end of the line was going to let me escape so easily. I pressed the button, and her voice flowed through the speaker, disembodied yet undeniably present. I have news about your upcoming arrangement, she said, the tone grave and oh so smooth, like velvet stretched over barbed wire. I felt a cold chill crawl down my spine, for the looming sense of inevitability swept into the car, threatening to engulf me. News? I echoed weakly, uncertainty wrapping itself around my mind with each syllable. Meet me tomorrow. You have a decision to make that will change everything. With that, the line went dead, leaving an oppressive silence throbbing between us. My mother stiffened, her lips pressing into a thin line of suppressed emotion. I silently cursed myself for the slip, for now they would probe deep, leaving me no choice but to brace for the test of loyalty against desire, expectation against freedom. But what decision loomed beyond that call? The world outside blurred into shapes and shadows as a new wave of uncertainty flooded through me. I turned to meet my mother's gaze, knowing that my heart would have to be fortressed for whatever awaited us. I'll figure it out, I whispered, but uncertainty gnawed at the edges of my resolve. Tomorrow would bring clarity or chaos, and the echoes of my heart floundering in the wake of two paths weighed heavily upon me. What decision would I face? What sacrifices might I have to make? And what would happen to the warmth of connection clinging to the hope that threaded through the storm of yesterday? The air crackled with tension as we pulled into the driveway, seeping through the cracks of our confined space like a slow poison. I felt transformed by the confrontation in the car, yet reality lay acrid on my tongue. Each moment expanded and constricted, the promise of tomorrow squeezing my chest tighter with every passing second. My family's expectations loomed larger than life, shrouded in disappointment and dread. As I stepped from the car onto the slick pavement, raindrops fell, each one a reminder of the turbulent emotions swirling within. My parents climbed out, not a word exchanged, the air thick with unsaid thoughts clawing at the silence. I fled inside, seeking the sanctuary of my room as if it could shield me from the impending reality. The familiar sounds of the house enveloped me, a clock ticking, the faint hum of an old heater struggling against the cold seeping in from outside, but my world felt foreign, everything muted and strange. I sank onto my bed, staring at the ceiling, counting the cracks as they wove a pattern of my confusion. What decision awaited? The matchmaker's voice echoed hauntingly, winding through my thoughts like an unsettling melody. A decision that will change everything. What could she mean? I felt caught in two worlds, with threads of commitment binding me to the expectations of my family and the reckless, vibrant life I craved beyond the confines of tradition. Sleep eluded me, and the night morphed into an insomniac reverie, weaving dreams of freedom, rebellion, and the tender warmth of the boy I had left outside in the storm. I could almost feel his fingers brushing against mine, the way they tethered me to a world I desperately wanted to belong to, one where choices were my own. At dawn, the relentless murmur of rain subsided, replaced by an unsettling quietness that mirrored the knot twisting in my stomach. I rose, stumbles of panic nudging me forward, as I prepared for what could feel like the end of one chapter and the beginning of another. Steeling myself, I texted him. I don't know what to do. I can't stop thinking about you, about us. My heart raced with anxiety, not so much for the words sent but for the sea of uncertainty they heralded. If I was to rewrite my story, as he had urged, could it ever include him? A mere moment passed before my phone buzzed to life, sending electrifying ripples through my chest. I want to let you face this alone. Meet me at the café by the park at noon. We'll figure this out. A warm glow ignited deep within, flushing away some of the uncertainties clouding my morning. It was exhausting to teeter on the edge of rebellion and innocence, craving the solace of the boy whose composure had sparked my resolve, yet, as I readied for the day, a fresh sense of unease unfurled as another thought weighed on my mind. What if my parents found out? The matchmaker had suggested I be discreet, and yet, the juxtaposition of secrecy against my longing felt less like a comfort and more like a trap. They would command knowledge like storm clouds demanding rain, eager for justification wrapped in tradition. By noon, I stood unconsciously fingering the hem of my blouse, obsessively gauging my reflection in the mirror. What would he see? A girl suffocating in expectations or a vibrant spirit clamoring to break free? With a flutter of nerves, I made my way to the café, the gentle rush of passing cars barely registering in my mind. As I entered, the scent of freshly brewed coffee swirled through the air, hostile yet familiar. My gaze climbed every angle of the quaint interior until I spotted him, silhouetted against the large window, looking astoundingly calm amidst my turmoil. His presence was an anchor as I approached, and the smirk that danced across his lips bolstered my confidence. "Hey," he said, the softness of his tone washing over me like a warm blanket. "Hey," I managed, breathy and a little overwhelmed. We settled across from each other, and I could feel the weight of my fears mixed with a glimmer of hope at the table between us. For a moment, it felt like we existed in our own little bubble, disconnected from the world outside. "Did you get the call?" he asked, his demeanor shifting to something more serious, eyes searching mine. I nodded, swallowing hard. "I don't even know what kind of decision needs to be made." He leaned forward, earnest. "You know it's about what you want. The life you want to live. Not just what they expect." Just before I could finish my thought, a commotion erupted near the entrance. The doors swung open, and in walked two figures I never expected to see. My parents, faces taut with determination and anger, stalking toward us as if they owned the very air around us. "Really?" My mother spat, eyes blazing. "You think we wouldn't find you?" My father's voice thundered, "This is unacceptable." And in that moment, the fragile thread of hope that had buoyed me up until now snapped, casting me into the churning tide of consequences. I wanted to protest, to defend the love that sparked inside me from the moment I had met him, yet all I could muster was silence as the storm descended upon me. The café was suddenly too small, the air stifling, suffocating. Despair loomed like an executioner, leaving me with nowhere to turn, stakes rising as my heart raced. The decision was no longer in my hands, an unexpected tide crashing over me, bathing me in the reality of unending family expectations, my dreams drowning beneath their weight. "Why are you with him?" my mother demanded, her voice sharp, echoing the discontent. "We've forged a future for you, and this will end now." I glanced at him, the boy whose warm hand felt like home. But the distance between us grew, as if the world had conspired to force us apart in that very instant. I felt adrift in uncertainty, both loving him and shaking with fear of what lay ahead. Tomorrow would come, bringing the decision that could seal my fate. But today, the storm had stalled, creating an unexpected calm. Yet deep within, I could sense a new kind of storm brewing, a furious rebellion of heart and mind, ready to face whatever tempest came next. The heavy silence settled around us like a dense fog, each second stretching painfully as I attempted to gather the courage to speak. My mother's fierce gaze burned into my skin, while my father stood rigidly beside her, a wall of disappointment and authority. The weight of their expectations bore down on me, rendering the café surreal, the fragrant coffee and scented pastries unnoticed amidst the swelling tide of impending confrontation. "Why are you with him?" my mother's question lingered, cutting through the tension. The incredulity in her voice felt like a blade, a demand for justification that I doubted I could satisfy. I hesitated, grasping for words that could bridge the immense chasm between my desires and their reality. My throat tightened as I realized that any answer I could give would only ignite their fury further. He reached for my hand beneath the table, a gesture both simple and profound, grounding me in the chaos. I wanted to squeeze back, to convey 1,000 unspoken words, but the weight of my mother's scrutiny stifled even that small act of rebellion. "Is this what you envision for yourself?" She pressed on, her voice dripping with disbelief. Running away with some boy who knows nothing about your future. You'll throw everything we've built away for this? I turned towards him, desperate for solidarity against the storm of their accusations. Instead, I found him gazing back at me, a mix of compassion and urgency swirling in his deep-set eyes. It was in that moment that I knew we were both inextricably intertwined in this conflict. I was not just fighting for myself but for him as well. The unbearable weight of expectation mounted even higher. I care about him, I finally managed, my voice wavering but resolute. And he cares about me. I don't want to live a life dictated by anyone else's dreams. The words felt stilted at first, like a feeble declaration in the face of a tidal wave, but each syllable built a fragile barricade against their impending tide of disapproval. My father's expression darkened further, each breath he took was fraught with incredulity. You think caring is enough? You think love is enough, just because it feels good in the moment? It's a fleeting sentiment, but responsibilities last forever. My heart twisted painfully at his words, edged with undeniable truth yet devoid of understanding. With each assurance of responsibility echoed, the haunting eyes of the matchmaker flashed through my mind. A decision that will change everything. What kind of change are we talking about? We're meant to build something together, I countered, feeling the swell of defiance rise within me. But my emotional anchor felt chipped, the strength I needed clashed violently with the fear of disapproval that clung to every corner of my mind. Together? My mother scoffed, arms crossed like a barrier, folding her disbelief into every curve of her body. You are meant to join a family that values tradition and respect, not frantically chase after a boy with no future. A flicker of hope ignited in my chest, demanding to be shared. You don't know him, I said almost desperately. He wants what's best for me. He sees me. Not what you want me to be, but who I truly am. The chaos continued swirling in the café. Patrons paused to look our way, their coffee cups stilling mid-air, eavesdropping on our family drama. I could feel the heat of humiliation flush my cheeks, but in my heart, I felt a sliver of resolve forge within me. No one would decide who I was, who I could love. Enough. My father's voice cut through, strong and stoic. We are done here. And as he turned to leave, I caught a crumbling softness in his stern demeanor, the flicker of uncertainty beneath the hard exterior. A moment of despair washed over me. Wait. I called out, reaching for him, but my voice was drowned in the din of clattering dishes, fading footsteps, and muffled conversations. As they stepped outside, I could only see my mother's silhouette blurred by the glass, a vision of resilience and sorrow. Forget it, he said at my side, his voice low and reverent, yet full of sorrow. We knew this could happen, but he trailed off, visibly withdrawing into himself. I didn't want it to be like this. I felt the throb of tears threatening to spill as desperation clawed at my insides. But I don't want it to end here. We can find a way to make this work. He shook his head, the defeat flickering in his eyes like a candle struggling under a heavy wind. You've got to think about what comes next. There are choices to be made, and some paths have to be taken alone. The bustling café suddenly felt oppressively quiet, wrapping our moment in a cocoon of impending heartache. My heart raced as dread crawled up my spine, gnawing at my thoughts, twisting them into knots of despair. I looked out the window, back to the fading figures of my parents, merging with the gray overcast sky. A phone buzzed within my pocket, the sharp drone ripping through the heavy atmosphere. I fished it out trembling, glancing at the screen, a message that had the power to shift everything once again. Meet me. I have information that changes everything. It was from the matchmaker. My heart dropped with an unexpected rush of uncertainty and urgency. This was it, the choice that would unravel the threads holding my life together or knit a new tapestry of possibility. But the fear coursing through me begged to know if I had the strength to confront the truth, and more profoundly, if I could bear whatever the outcome would be. Are you okay? He asked, sensing my turmoil, his voice a lifeline but only partially alleviating my anxiety. I don't know, I whispered. Everything is becoming so complicated. I looked across the table at him, my heart shattering at the thought of losing him in this fight, and struggling with the gravity of my situation. "Whatever happens, I'm here for you," he said softly, and yet unmistakably. But as I placed my phone on the table, staring at the unread message that pulsated with the weight of choices yet to come, a sense of finality hung heavy in the air. What choice would I ultimately make when confronted with the truth the matchmaker hinted at? As the cacophony of the café faded into the distant hum of uncertainty, I realized I was standing on the precipice of my destiny, with everything and nothing to lose. The sun dipped low in the sky, casting long shadows that intertwined with my swirling thoughts, creating a chaotic tapestry of emotion I could barely navigate. Each step I took felt heavier than the last, the pavement beneath my feet growing increasingly unforgiving as I approached the park bench where I'd agreed to meet her. My heart raced, pounding against my ribcage like a caged bird desperate to escape. I wasn't just going to confront my parents' expectations, I was potentially stepping into the unknown, and the weight of it all made my breath hitch in my throat. The park buzzed with life around me, the laughter of children echoing, the soft rustle of leaves in the breeze, and the distant sound of music from a street performer setting up nearby. It all felt so normal while my world felt not just skewed but shattered. Each joyful note from the musician contrasted the sorrow waiting within me, as if the universe was teasing me with glimpses of happiness while I stood on the brink of despair. She appeared almost as if by magic, her figure illuminated by the gentle evening light. The matchmaker, with her enigmatic smile and knowing gaze, somehow exuded a comforting yet intimidating presence. I searched her face for signs of the information she claimed could change everything but found only a complex web of intentions I struggled to decipher. "Thank you for coming," she said, her tone warm yet layered, as if each word was a stepping stone towards a revelation I was afraid to cross. "I'm here," I replied, swallowing hard. "But what do you mean by information that changes everything?" She gestured for me to sit, her movements graceful, filled with the kind of confidence that felt both inviting and alarming. "The future you envision is within your grasp, but there are truths about your situation that you need to understand fully, truths your parents may not even grasp themselves." My heartbeat quickened, and a mix of anticipation and dread settled in my stomach. "What do you mean?" "Family expectations can tie us to paths that don't belong to us," she began, her gaze piercing through my uncertainty. "But sometimes, those very obligations are not as steadfast as they seem. Often, families hide their fears behind duty, and it shapes their decisions. You may find that what they want for you isn't truly against your destiny, but rather a reflection of their own unfulfilled dreams." A chill ran down my spine at her words, echoing the heart-wrenching reality I had faced just hours before. "You think they're afraid?" I questioned, half in disbelief, half desperate for the reassurance that there was a way through this tumult. "Fear motivates choices," she asserted, leaning closer. "But love needs to be the anchor of those choices. If your love for him is real, allow that to guide you. There's a way to marry your truth with your desires and their expectations." As much as I wanted to believe her, the doubt began to creep in, curling around my heart like tendrils of ivy. What if I can't? What if I'm trapped in a life I don't want? They've held on to their traditional beliefs so tightly. "I can help you find out," she replied, her eyes alight with something almost tangible, hope, perhaps. "What if I told you there's an opportunity for you to showcase your love, to show them who you truly are?" I held my breath, the possibility enticing, yet the stakes felt overwhelming. "What do you mean?" "An event is coming, a celebration in your community. A showcase of talents and stories where you can express your identity, your art, your journey, and your love. You can invite him to join you and show your parents the depth of what you have. It's time to turn their expectations on their heads, to show that love can flourish even against the strongest currents." A spark flickered in my chest, an ember of hope flared against the crushing darkness of doubt. There was a path, a way forward. And what if they still don't understand? I pressed, fear still nagging at the corners of my thoughts. "Then you'll show them your strength," she said resolutely. "You deserve the chance to define your own story. Stand firm against the traditions that seek to drown your individuality. Her conviction seeped into my skin, igniting the faint flicker of resilience that had dimmed beneath the weight of my parents' expectations. But a new question twisted painfully in my mind, breaking through the brief wave of determination. What if he doesn't want to? What if he thinks this is too complicated? The matchmaker leaned back slightly, allowing me to absorb her words while she studied my expression. You need to share this with him. Bring him into your thoughts, let him know how deeply you feel. Your love matters, and it doesn't have to be confined by the walls others build around you. I nodded slowly, contemplating my next steps. As my heart began to dare to imagine the possibilities, her phone buzzed, a sudden disruption that pulled her focus. She glanced at the screen and then back at me with a look that chilled my bones. I need to take this, she said, her eyes flickering with something I couldn't understand. But remember, this event could be your turning point. Let your love redefine your path. Just as I began to embrace the strength of her words, she turned away, seemingly distracted by whatever claim called to her from the other end of the line. And in that moment, I realized how precarious this situation was, how swept away I felt by this fragile thread of hope, but how quickly it could unravel. That I watched her, my heart racing with the urge to implore her to stay a while longer, to solidify this newfound courage with a conversation that would motivate me to act. But just then, her expression shifted, transforming into one of urgency mixed with anxiety. She quickly glanced over her shoulder as if someone was approaching, and then her voice dropped to a whisper that barely pierced the evening air. They're coming. Before she could finish her sentence, an unexpected figure emerged through the trees, and my heart plunged into my stomach as I recognized my mother, her silhouette striking and formidable against the dimming light. Panic flooded my veins. What were they doing here? Did they follow me? Instinctively, I rose from the bench, caught between the matchmaker's half-finished warning and the undeniable confrontation looming in front of me. Whatever revelations lay ahead felt tangled with desperation, the final strands of an unresolved conflict threatening to unravel all hope I had just clung to. I'll be right back, I whispered to the matchmaker, but her eyes widened with trepidation, rooted in the understanding that something significant was about to unfold. And as I stood on the precipice of love and expectation, my heart raced with determination, mingling dread and resolve. The night was only just beginning, but the clarity I sought remained tantalizingly out of reach. I barely registered the figure advancing toward me, my mother's warm yet formidable aura casting a shadow over the flickering hope ignited by the matchmaker's words. My heart thudded erratically, spurred by the urgency of the moment. What are you doing here? I managed to ask as the distance between us closed, her eyes filled with an intensity one knew too well. She paused, momentarily taken aback by the tension radiating from me. We need to talk, she insisted, her voice steady but edged with concern. I was worried about you, especially after what you said earlier. I could feel the weight of her expectations pressing down, the words I longed to share with her slipping from my grasp like sand through fingers. The urgency of her presence felt like both a warning and a tether, pulling me toward a path I wasn't sure I wanted to walk. I've already spoken with the matchmaker, I finally said, feeling emboldened yet terrified. That a flicker of surprise crossed her face, swiftly masked by the familiar armor of maternal concern. The matchmaker? What could she possibly have told you? That she told me that I deserve to pursue what makes me happy, even if it scares you, I interrupted, my voice trembling yet fierce, a delicate resolve hardening within me. She believes that love should guide our choices, not fear. A moment of silence enveloped us, the world around us fading into a distant echo, leaving only the two of us in this charged confrontation. I watched her process my words, the conflict warring in her expression, fear, love, pride, and a sense of duty all coiling tightly within her. I know you want the best for me, I continued, feeling the warmth of my convictions swell. But I also need you to understand my truth. This isn't just about what you or Dad expect from me. It's about who I am and who I want to be. Her brow furrowed, shades of hurt flickering in her eyes before she hardened again. You think this is easy for us? This is tradition, our family, our culture. This isn't something to be taken lightly, and love doesn't always get to write the rules. The intensity of her words struck me like a physical blow, but something within me refused to deflate. Mom, I'm not trying to disregard our traditions. I just don't want to be trapped by them. I'm not asking you to accept every choice I make right now, but please, trust that I'm trying to navigate this in a way that honors us both. Her expression softened momentarily, and I sensed a crack in the wall she had built over the years. You think this is easy for us? She echoed, hurt flooding her voice. We sacrificed so much to bring you up with these values. If you choose a different path, it feels like she faltered, emotion catching the tension. It feels like a rejection. I stepped closer, reaching out in a moment of vulnerability. Mom, I'm not rejecting you or our family. I'm trying to live authentically, and I want you to be part of this journey with me, not against me. Just as I thought I might bridge the gap that had grown between us, her expression shifted again, her eyes darting behind me as the distant strains of laughter floated through the air, a stark contrast to the heaviness hanging between us. Before I could process her distraction, the matchmaker reappeared at the edge of the park, her phone cradled in her hand, her expression fraught with urgency. I really need to talk to you, she said, stepping forward, a tense coil of energy thrumming in the air. My mother stiffened, a new wariness creeping into her demeanor as she turned toward the unfamiliar woman, suspicion washing over her features. Who are you? She demanded, the protective instinct of a mother rising from within. This isn't the time, the matchmaker urged, her eyes darting between us, a tempest of unspoken truths brewing in the air. I know you're scared, but you need to listen to me. There are things that need to be said, and not just about your future, but about the past that is influencing it. What are you talking about? My mother's voice rose, a mixture of confusion and concern. My daughter is fine, she's just no, she's not. The matchmaker interjected softly yet firmly. There are hidden truths lurking beneath the surface, secrets and fears that have been passed down. They could change the way you see everything and your roles in it. Panic bubbled within me, the swirling emotions that tugged at my heart were suddenly compounded by the matchmaker's ominous declaration. What do you mean? I gasped, my nerves electrified by the weight of impending revelations. Before the matchmaker could respond, my mother took a decisive step back, raising a hand as if to ward off the subject, her gaze flashing with a blend of fear and defiance. No. We don't need to dredge up the past. Not here, not now. But I grasped the knot of tension between us, yearning to unravel whatever chains bound us to unspoken histories. Mom, whatever it is, maybe we do need to discuss this. If it can help us understand each other. I turned to the matchmaker, desperate for direction, my heart racing faster with each passing moment. Please, listen to me, she insisted, locking eyes with both of us, urgency radiating like an electric charge ready to spark. There are connections you don't yet see, and your futures are intertwined in ways that may surprise you if you allow yourselves to look. As the weight of her words crashed over us, I felt the ground shift beneath me. My heart pounded in my chest as I searched both women's faces, yearning for clarity amidst the chaos surrounding me. Doubt swirled in my gut. Were we merely circling the edge of an emotional abyss? Tension hung in the air, heavy and palpable, as a flicker of doubt and dread pulled at my resolve. My next words would either solidify my strength or send us spiraling deeper into the despair I sought to escape. As the evening sun sank lower, casting an ominous glow over our lives, I grasped at courage, my breath caught in a silent prayer that whatever awaited us in this moment would finally bring forth the truth we desperately needed or tear us apart once and for all. The chill in the air seemed to deepen as moments passed, the matchmaker's presence stretching the silence taut with unspoken tension. I could see the questions flickering in my mother's eyes, skepticism battling with curiosity and fear, the dance of a mother protecting her child from the world's unpredictable revelries. Just say it, I urged, the words tumbling out before I could steal them back. If there is something we need to know, let us hear it now. The matchmaker took a deep breath, steadied by the weight of necessity. There are stories in our families that often remain hidden, binding us in ways we cannot comprehend. Your lives intertwine with those of your ancestors, shaping your choices and beliefs in ways you might never imagine. What are you implying? My mother's voice trembled, her defenses rising like walls against an approaching storm. We are here now. My daughter is happy, and we are you. The matchmaker's calm but piercing gaze cut through her words, quickening my pulse. The truth you avoid confronting may very well be the reason for the rift between you. There are patterns in your bloodlines, historical pains that resonate in hearts long gone, but continue to echo in the present. Only by breaking the silence can you hope to forge a new path. My mother flinched at that, and for a moment, I saw something crack in her armor, a reflection of fear that called to the depths of her stubborn heart. You think I haven't tried to protect her? You think I would let history define anything for her? It's not about blame, I interjected, desperation seeping through. It's about understanding. The matchmaker nodded solemnly, encouraging my striving to mend what felt irrevocably broken. There were choices made that affected your family's trajectory. It's imperative to learn where you come from to reveal a future shaped by more than just avoidance. My mother's eyes darted around the park, briefly catching on to the laughter of children playing nearby, a sound that felt so far removed from the turmoil enclosing us. What could possibly be so important? She whispered, her voice showcasing the ache beneath her bravado. The love you desire for your daughter, the matchmaker urged, her voice holding a softness that somehow cut deeper. The sacrifices you've made, the pressures you feel, they are rooted in the lineage that shaped them. With every word, I felt the anchors of my own uncertainty weighing heavier. My vision wavered, haunted by the thought of uncovering shadows that threatened not only my resolve but the fragile bond between me and my mother. But I couldn't take a step back. Not now. Please, I urged again, my voice barely above a whisper. Tell us what we need to hear. Otherwise, none of us can move forward. For a moment, a profound stillness enveloped us, the air thick with a sense of anticipation, a moment wherein everything could either hinge or fracture irrevocably. With a slight nod, the matchmaker took a breath, as if gathering strength from deep within. There was once a love that transcended barriers in your family history, a story overshadowed by tradition and loss. A forbidden connection, an ancestor of yours faced consequences that have rippled down through generations. This legacy has manifested as fear, dictating choices made now, she concluded, her gaze penetrating deeper into us. Shock reverberated through my body, awakening unresolved questions within me. Was this the moment we would brandish our truths and watch boundaries tumble in the face of the past? Or would it further enclose us in the box we had so desperately tried to slip free from? My mother's expression hardened, the flickers of doubt melding into a hardened facade. You cannot possibly be serious, she insisted, yet I caught the tremor beneath her voice. This cannot dictate who she becomes. Of course not, the matchmaker countered gently. But recognizing what has influenced your choices could change everything. And dear one, she turned to me, her eyes warm and inviting, your future lies within your ability to acknowledge, to understand those roots so that you, too, can choose your own path free from past burdens. Before I could respond, a commotion arose behind us. I turned, startled as a man approached in a rush, his face flushed with anxiety. Excuse me, but is everything all right? He looked from the matchmaker to me and then to my mother, concern etched on his features. I heard voices raised. The moment was shattered, the bubble we had been encased in bursting forcefully. My mother straightened, a freshly shielded resolve in her demeanor as she turned to the newcomer. Everything is fine, she stated curtly, yet the quiver in her voice betrayed her. I felt my heart clench. Would we retreat again? The unresolved question filled the thick air between us like a storm cloud, and I sensed precious time slipping through my fingers, a rift widening that we lacked the courage to bridge. Mom, I said softly, yet with unmistakable determination, maybe this is a sign. Her gaze locked with mine, uncertainty warring against the fierce motherly love that had kept her unwavering for so long. But then I saw the storms of doubt dance across her features again, a lingering hesitation that could either compel her to open up or seal our fates tighter than the shadows we hid from. As fear laced the air, I could feel the tenuous balance between us hinging on the precipice of that moment. Would she reach out, willing to listen to the truths that could bind us or pull us further apart? The afternoon sun dipped lower, casting long shadows that threatened to engulf us whole, leaving me fearful of what would emerge as the darkness fell. And just as I opened my mouth to draw her in, a shrill notification broke the tension, vibrating in the pocket of the matchmaker's jacket, a sound heralding news that might change everything. In that suspended moment, I felt the weight of the world pressing down on us, the air heavy with silence as the matchmaker's phone vibrated violently in her pocket. My breath caught in my throat, anticipation and dread swirling together in an exquisitely tangled knot. I glanced between my mother, whose expression hovered between disbelief and fear, and the matchmaker, who seemed as if she could alter the course of our lives with a single word. "Please," I implored, my voice trembling. "Whatever it is, just share it. We can't keep dancing around the truth. If we're going to find clarity, we have to face whatever's lurking in the shadows." The matchmaker took a deep breath, her eyes shimmering with an intensity that spoke of long-held secrets and the kind of power that comes from unearthing buried stories. "This may be the moment you both need to redefine your truths. But first," she turned toward the newcomer, "please, let me address you. I invite you in, but this conversation is not as simple as it seems. This is about family, choices, the past, and the present." The stranger's brows knitted together, glancing between us as if piecing together a puzzle. "Is this about?" His words trailed off into uncertain air. And then, without warning, the matchmaker's phone rang again, the sound slicing through the tension that wound tightly between us like barbed wire. She fished it from her pocket, glancing at the screen, and for a sliver of a moment, confusion shadowed her features. "It's him," she murmured, more to herself than anyone. The air was electric, thick with the promise of revelation. "Who?" my mother asked sharply, eyes narrowing. The matchmaker hesitated, considering the weight of the moment, then she met my gaze, her voice resolute but gentle. "It's him. Your father, the one I spoke of earlier." My heart thundered in my ears as I absorbed her words. The man who had loved against the odds, the one whose legacy rippled through our veins with unspoken history. It was the history that had turned my mother into a fortress and tangled my heart within a fight of tradition. "What do you mean?" I pressed, desperate to excavate the buried truths that clung to the air around us. "I haven't spoken to him in years," she began slowly, "but he was a piece of the puzzle that brought us all to this point. I believe it's time you both heard from him. The love story that was never told, the choices that can't ever be undone, they are critical to understanding who you both are." The atmosphere thickened with urgency as the newcomer, the man who had appeared just moments ago, stepped forward, equal parts confusion and intrigue on his face. "Are you suggesting we call someone who may know your past? For what purpose?" "Yes," I exclaimed, my pulse racing. "Because if understanding our past is what it takes to bridge the divide, then maybe, just maybe, it can help us find a way forward." My mother glanced nervously at the matchmaker, reluctance evident in the way she shifted her weight. "Is this really the course we should take?" With a nod, the matchmaker spoke softly, but her words were imbued with conviction. "The choices they made in love shaped the choices you all are making now. It's essential for clarity." The newcomer's eyes darted between my mother and me, uncertainty thrumming beneath his surface. "Do we really want to drag all this up?" "Yes," I replied firmly, the courage born from desperation flooding through me. "We deserve to understand one another fully. And above all, I want to know," I paused, heart racing at the prospect of everything I had been holding back, "who I really am." My mother exhaled slowly, the tension bubbling around us as she weighed the potential ramifications. "And what if what we uncover only drives the wedge deeper? Then we'll face it together," I said, my voice steady despite the chaotic storm of emotions swirling within me. "We'll confront it together." Finally, it seemed to resonate with her. She swallowed hard, and I could see the shadow of resolve creeping into her demeanor. "All right," she relented, with an air of weariness swimming in her. tone. If it might help us heal, if it might give you clarity, then we should do this. The matchmaker smiled briefly, and a flicker of hope ignited deep within me, rekindling the warmth I longed for. As she prepared to contact my father, I turned to the stranger next to me, the boy who had somehow woven himself into this tumultuous tapestry. "I'm so grateful you're here," I whispered, feeling the thread of connection that had anchored me during this tempest. "I truly don't know what I would do without you." He gave me a warm smile, the kind that reached deep into his eyes, somehow radiating a sense of calm. "No matter what happens, I'll be right beside you." With a nod, I felt the energy shift in the space around us as the matchmaker stepped back to make the call. Anxiety coiled tightly in my chest as the seconds stretched into what felt like an eternity, each passing moment teasing the edges of uncertainty. Finally, as the line connected, her voice was soft and measured. "It's been a long time. But I believe it's time you met your daughter. She needs to know the truth." The weight of that moment hung palpably in the air, the final unraveling of secrets that had held us captive for so long. As my breath caught in my throat, I realized that everything we faced ahead, both the messy truths and the hidden feelings, mapped a path toward unconditional love. As the matchmaker spoke on the phone, her words slowly fading into the background noise, I felt something shift so profoundly within me, an acceptance of love that could guide us through the shifting sands of expectation, a love that embraced us, and a story that awaited reclamation. "This is where it begins," I thought, my gaze drifting toward the park, taking in the sun dipping majestically beyond the horizon. In that twilight moment, I knew that whatever the future held, it belonged to us, gloom and glory intertwined, heartbeats finding their way back to a truth of unimaginable depth. And as hope bloomed in the air, I whispered quietly to myself, "We are ready." But as I gazed at both my mother and the girl I loved standing beside me, I found myself wondering, was I ready enough? Yet as the colors blended into a horizon painted with possibilities, I found my conviction crystal clear: love would lead me home, back to who I was meant to become. "Love is destined," I whispered, a vow to a new beginning, affirming within me that love, in any form, would ultimately conquer all. As the weight of the call lingered in the air, the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a hopeful glow around us, a haunting reminder that shadows need light to dance, and with that warmth, I felt a surge within me. Tomorrow, I would step forward, ready to embrace my truth, with open arms, my heart brimming with courage and love, knowing that whatever would come next, I would not face it alone. "Let us rewrite our story," I said, drawing strength from those who stood alongside me without hesitation, together, beneath the unyielding light of a new dawn. And it was then I realized, love didn't just speak, it sang.